Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be doing something special. We're going to be looking at a folding electric bicycle. Now this is not just any folding electric bicycle, guys. This particular bicycle has specific characteristics that really helped me out when I was in trouble. Now, as any avid viewer of this channel knows, I got into a bad bicycle wreck going on about 2 years ago. Now that bicycle wreck was no joke, guys. I busted up my knee, I walked with a limp, I could barely walk, let alone ride a bicycle. I couldn't apply pressure to the pedals without severe pain in my knee.
That knee again, huh?
Now that is a big problem for a person like me because I am a full-time cyclist. I don't own a car, I ride my bike everywhere. Unfortunately, I still had to get around town and I still had to get to work. What did I do? Did I take public transportation? No. What did I end up doing? Well, I ended up riding an electric bike. This particular electric bike we're about ready to talk about. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the bike that saved my bacon during that time. We're going to be looking at the Fiido D3 Pro. Okay guys, we're getting geared up to go take the D3 Pro out for a nice little ride. I'm going to tell you its functions, I'm going to tell you its features, we're going to go over my likes, we're going to go over my dislikes. I'm going to tell you everything I know about this bike. But before we do that, I got to talk to you about the operation of this bike. It's very simple. And considering it's really hard to see the display out in bright sunlight, we're going to do that in here. This is the control panel for the whole bicycle, guys. This is it. This is where the magic happens. Basically, you have two buttons, a display, and you got a light button and you got a horn button. Turning on the bike is extremely easy. All you have to do is push and hold the power button and the whole display lights up. There are three things to look at. Basically, you have your speed right here in kilometers per hour. You have your battery indicator. And then this little number over here is your mode indicator. You can switch that with this bottom button. See? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. You basically keep pressing it and you can switch the modes of the bicycle. If you want to turn on your light, you just push your light button and your light turns on. If you want to tell people to get out of your way, you just... It's a weird sounding horn, I know, but at least it has a horn. Turn off the light, you push it again. Now your mode indicator is going to determine the bike's power output. Its assistance level on pedal assist. So if you have it on 1, it's going to give the least amount of power output. If you have it on number 3, it's going to give the most amount of power output. Where this comes into play is if you're using the pedals or if you're using the throttle. If you don't want the bike to go like a bat out of hell, you want to put it on number 1. If you want the bike to go its top speed, you put it on number 3. That is for the throttle or the pedal assist, either way. All right, now, crap. Let's set this over here for now. Now I know what you guys are thinking. You guys are like, Brian, that's a basic electric bike. How did that help you when you were injured? How did that help you get back and forth to work? Well, the best feature and the most important aspect about this bike is its size and weight. Let me show you what I did. I took an ordinary little strap off of a duffel bag. I got plenty of those. And I was able to attach it to the handlebars and my seat post. I was able to clip the strap onto the seat frame. The other side of the strap, I was able to loop around the handlebar, and then I was able to feed the other side of the strap through the other side clip, like so. I know what a lot of you are thinking. You're like, Brian, what does that have anything to do with anything? Guys, as you know, electric bikes are extremely heavy. A couple of other folding electric bikes I got in there are 70 pounds or better. Some of them are 50, some of them are 70, depending on what kind of bike you get. This bike only weighs about 38 pounds. But even at 38 pounds, it was very difficult for me to get this thing up and down the steps of my apartment. And as you guys know, I live on the top floor of my apartment and I don't have an elevator. I'm too cheap to afford an apartment with an elevator. But anyway, I have to carry my bike up and down the steps every single day. Now with my other folding bikes like my Brompton, it was no problem whatsoever to get the bikes up and down the steps, even with my hurt knee. The problem was pedaling the bike. So what I needed was a bike that I actually could pedal a little bit just to keep my knee movement going, but I also needed the throttle for that power assistance because my knee wasn't going to put power to the pedals, that's for sure. The problem with my bigger electric folding bikes was the fact that they were so heavy that I could not get them up and down the steps with my hurt knee. This thing was another story. Where the strap comes in was I was able to use the strap and strap it around my shoulder like so, and I was able to use one hand to hold on to the railing, and then I was able to keep a lot of the weight off of my knee. So with that, I was able to avoid taking public transportation. Let's just face it, as an introvert, I don't want to be cramped on a little metal tube with a bunch of people that I don't know.
Baby steps, get on a bus. Baby steps, get on a bus.
It's weird, it's uncomfortable, I don't like doing it, and I can never seem to make it to a bus stop on time to save my life. So it was good that I was able to maintain my independence even when my knee was all busted up. I didn't have to rely on anybody to get to work. Okay, enough of this nonsense. Let's go out and ride this bike and I'll tell you more about it. Won't people think I'm a stud muffin riding this little bitty bike?
No! No!
Actually, I don't care. I don't care what people think. It's a display, kind of hard to see in the sunlight. That's why we took a look at it while we were in the apartment. All right, guys, we are going to now go over the features and functions of this bicycle. But let's just take a second to appreciate the looks of this bike. It's not a bad looking bike. I actually kind of like it. Kind of looks a little tough. Very tiny, but tough nonetheless. Okay, we went over the display and control features inside the apartment. Here we're gonna go over all the external peripheral features of this bicycle, guys. As you can see, we have a 2-stage steering column. I've got it all the way maxed out because I'm too tall for this bike technically. We have an adjustable angle of your handlebars. It does have some nice grippy handles, but the problem is they twist too easy. So a lot of times I'm grabbing onto this thing and it's just like sliding off the end of the handlebar. We obviously have a fold down seat. They say the bike can actually accommodate people from 150 to about 185 cm. I'm 6'1", so I'm right at 185 to 86 cm, I think. So I'm right at the maximum height you can be to ride this bike. There is a feature on this bicycle where if you take the seat out, there's an actual pump. Oh, yeah, there's an actual tire pump. It comes out some way and you can air up the tires. We obviously have 2 folding pedals. We have a front headlight. We have cable actuated disc brakes. We got a stubby little cute kickstand. We have a single speed drive system. We have an XLR quick charge port. It's got cool fast charging, guys. This thing usually charges in about 4 to 5 hours. We have an internal 7.8 amp hour battery at 280.8 watts. Like I said earlier, there are 3 modes. You have eco mode, you have normal mode, and you have sport mode. Obviously 1 is eco mode and 3 is sport mode. I've actually tested the bike out, and if you're helping the bike, if you're actually pedaling and helping the bike out on number 1 eco mode, you can get, I'd say the range is 40 to 45 miles, but you're not gonna go very fast. I think it's 8 to 10 miles an hour. Number 2 on the display, normal mode, you might get 30 miles out of this bicycle if you're helping it. You won't get that if you're not helping it, but if you are helping it, you might get 30 miles out of it. But nobody rides it in the first 2. I don't myself. I ride it in number 3. I get about 15 to 25 miles is pretty standard, depending on wind conditions, depending on terrain. We have fenders. It does have an IP54 waterproof rating. I have rode this thing in the wet snow. I have rode it in the rain, and it has done fine. I haven't had any issues with it. We have that rotation sensor that I talked about earlier. We got a power disconnect on the brake levers. It's got a wire that runs all the way down to the motor. And basically what happens is when you push the brake, power to the motor actually stops. That way you don't have to worry about the bike running away from you. We have an aluminum frame that's all one piece. There's no folding mechanism to fold in half. We have 14 by 2.125 wide tires, guys. Look at those babies. It has alloy rims. Look at that, guys, alloy rims. The best kind of rims for an electric bike, in my opinion. It's got the front and it's got the rear. It's got a 250 watt motor at 36 volts. Okay, we're gonna step over into the light and I'm gonna show you the folding process of this bicycle real quick. Okay guys, folding this bike is extremely easy. There really isn't a lot to it. All you have to do, undo the latch, lower it down, open up the bottom steering stem latch, lower it down, lower the seats down, and fold the pedals. And that's pretty much all there is to it. There is not much to folding this bike, and as you can see, the frame itself does not fold. Basically, that's all, guys. There's not much to this bike. There's not much to the folding process. It almost can't be classified as a folding bike, just barely. Okay, we're gonna talk about my likes and dislikes about this bicycle, because there's an equal list of likes and an equal list of dislikes. But we're gonna first talk about the likes. My numero uno, I would say number 1 like about this bike is the price. This is a very, very cheap folding bike. When I first got this bike, it was like 600 bucks, like $599 offline, off the Fiido website. But now you can get them for 300 bucks, guys. That is a steal. I was gonna say 600 is a little on the high side for what you get here, but 300 is a steal. 300, it is worth having one of these in your arsenal because, hey, I use it sometimes. I use it for a quick get me around the city type of bike. It's small, you don't have to worry about it too much. You can lock it up really easy. You can lock this thing up outside a grocery store. You can lock it up outside your office building. The only thing you have to worry about is the seat. You take your seat with you, but I wouldn't leave the seat in there because anybody can just undo that latch and take your seat. But even if it gets stolen, guys, it's a $300 folding bike. It's not that much money. I love the fact that this thing is lightweight and compact. It is really good for bringing in a small apartment. It doesn't take up a lot of space. If you want to put it by your desk when you're at work, you don't have to worry about it. It'll fit right beside your desk. It won't take up too much room. It only weighs 38 pounds. Pretty light for an electric folding bike. Obviously not the lightest bike in the world. Obviously you're gonna have to have a little bit of girth to be able to pick it up and carry it around an airport terminal or something like that, but you're probably not gonna use this bike for that. I would use it mainly as a kind of quick get me around the city type of bike. But yes, lightweight, compact. Love that about this bike. Love that. I love the fact that it has a strong frame. It is an aluminum frame, but there is no folding mechanism in the aluminum. That's one of the things about aluminum bikes that really kind of scares me, especially like the Zizzo bikes. I'm worried that the aluminum will eventually wear out, and then once that joint wears out, you might as well throw the bike away. This one, you don't really ever have to worry about that. The steering stem might eventually get loose, but it looks like a standardized steering stem, so you might be able to source this part and replace that. So you might not have anything to worry about keeping this bike up long term. Another thing I absolutely love about this bike are the wheels and tires. I love the fact that the wheels are solid and they're not spoked. That means they're going to last a lot longer. That you don't have to worry about the spokes coming loose because of the rear motor. You don't have to worry about the spokes breaking. Love that about this bike. Love the tires. There is a dislike on the tires, which I'll talk about when we talk about the dislikes, but the likes, I do like the fact that these are very thick tires. They're very comfortable for riding down the road, but also they're very, very thick, which means you're not gonna have that many problems with puncture. Even when these tires are fully deflated, it's hard to press it together. They're not paper thin tires, guys. These are really, really thick. By virtue of being 14-inch, these tires are pretty thick. So when you run over some broken glass, you do not have to worry about punctures. I have not got a puncture on this bicycle one time. And I've actually rode this bike around Denver quite a lot. And you know the broken glass situation here in Denver, and I haven't had a puncture one. My other folding electric bike has paper thin fat tires on it. I got a flat the first time I took that thing out and rode on it. This one, never had to worry about that. I love the fact that this bike comes with fenders. This bike absolutely needs fenders, especially if you're using it for multimodal transportation. You know, it's not always sunny out. It's going to rain sometimes. Fenders are an absolute necessity. I won't say no more about it. The short wheelbase, guys, makes this bike super maneuverable. There are downsides to it, which we'll talk about that when I talk about my dislikes, but the fact that it's such a short wheelbase means that this thing is so maneuverable. Awesome for getting around in the city. Awesome for maneuvering between crowds of people and maneuvering with all these obstacles in your way. A great city bike. I love the fact that this is such a maneuverable bike. Another thing that I absolutely love about this bicycle, guys, is it's one of the only folding electric bikes I've ever ridden that you can actually pedal it without assist. If any of you guys have ever rode a fat tire electric bike without any assistance whatsoever, you are struggling. You're like, God dang, this thing is heavy. It's not just the heaviness of the bike. The bike is probably like 50 to 80 pounds, okay? That's heavy. But the wide tires on those types of bicycles make it very, very difficult to pedal. Not only do you have a lot of rolling resistance, you have a lot of weight. And those two things make for a very, very difficult pedaling combination. We're gonna turn this bike off, guys. No pedal assist whatsoever. Now we're gonna pedal this bike up the road and back, and hopefully nobody steals my stuff. Like I said, it's not the lightest thing in the world, but it's totally doable. If you run out of battery power, you will get home. That's where people will say this single speed is not ideal for pedaling, but I'm gonna tell you right now, with these tiny little tires on it, it's not a big problem. This chain is super easy to maintain, single speed, just lube it up. You don't have to worry about it prematurely going out on you. Single speed chains are generally stronger than multi-speed chains, so it'll last longer. You see those fat tire bikes? Every person in Denver rides a fat tire e-bike. Like I said, you don't have to worry about it. You run out of battery power, not a big deal. You can still pedal yourself home. And I love that. I absolutely love that about this bicycle. Even after the battery goes on this bicycle, guys, you just hollow it out, take the battery out, it'll be a little bit lighter, and then you can still use it as a regular pedal bike. So you don't actually have to throw this bike away like you do a lot of other electric folding bikes. Did I mention the price?
Yeah, you kind of did.
300 bucks is a steal for this bike, guys. 300 bucks is a steal for this bike. God, dang bugs. Okay, guys, we're gonna now talk about my dislikes about this bike. And there are a fair number. The number one dislike I have about the Fiido D3 Pro is there is no removable battery. I absolutely, positively hate that. There's a lot to like about this bike, but no removable battery? Are you kidding me? I don't understand why people do that. If you had a removable battery, it would be a lot better because then you can make the bike last longer. If your battery dies, you just get a new battery for the bike and you're still up and running. You don't have to throw the bike away. Now, like I said earlier, you don't necessarily have to throw the bike away. You can hollow out the tube and just ride it as a regular pedal bike. Or actually, I've been looking online and Amazon does have external battery packs, and there is enough room to where you could probably put an external battery pack on this thing and wire it in to the control center. I think it just has these little connectors inside there. You can get standardized connectors, maybe wiring an external battery pack. So when the original battery of this bike dies, you could still actually use it as an electric bike. You just have to buy an external battery pack. So there are options, no doubt about it. But I really wish it had a removable battery. That way I can buy 2 batteries, keep one in my backpack, and if I ride too far, I don't have to pedal home. I could actually just pull out my battery from my backpack, put it on the bike, and head back home. You know, I don't have to worry about it. That's a missed opportunity. I just really wish this bike actually had a removable battery. Another thing that I'm not particularly fond of, but it's okay, is the tire size. Now, I do like 14-inch tires. I think that these tires are really cool because they're thick. You don't have to worry about punctures as much. They're definitely really, really robust tires. They're also very comfortable to ride on. But one thing that's bad about them is they're not readily available at most bicycle shops. That is going to be a problem. Now, you can order these tires offline all day long. And what I would recommend is you buy them in bulk. You know, you buy about 4 sets of these tires and keep them, because guess what? You're not gonna find them at bicycle shops. Another thing that's kind of a minor gripe is it's really not a bike for taller riders. I'm 6'1", and this bike is too small for me. It's okay if I'm just going to use the throttle and ride it around like a scooter, like I said. But if you want to actually get your full extension on pedaling, which this bike is a pedal bike, it's actually usable as a regular pedal bike, especially if you run out of battery power. That's why I really wish it had a little bit more adjustment for taller riders. But if you're a person that's over 6 foot, I definitely would not recommend this bicycle. Another gripe about this bike, and this is a total missed opportunity, I really wish it had a dolly function. As I said earlier, this thing is not really the best for multimodal transportation, and one of the reasons why is because the frame is a little bit too long. Bikes like the Brompton, bikes like the Zizzo can fold in half, so they don't take up as much length on the floor space of a bus or a train. This bike gets kind of irritating because, like, even when you pull the seat down all the way, you fold the pedals up and you fold the handlebar down, you still got quite a long bike, guys. It's not super long, it's got a really short wheelbase, but taking this on a bus or a train is going to be a problem. If it had a rear rack with some rollers on it, it would be nice. Somewhat similar to that, what is it, that Turn BYB, I forget. I think that's what it's called, the Turn BYB. It actually flips up on its end and you can roll it around a train station or a bus station or whatever. So it'd really be cool if it had a rack with some rollers. That way you could kind of turn it on its end like that, and then you could actually dolly it around. That is a missed opportunity. I think if this bike had that, it would be a lot better for multimodal transportation. I'm not saying you can't ride the bus or the train with this. You just got to be a little bit more careful. It's better to flip it up on its end. You don't want to be hitting people's knees when you're carrying this around inside a bus or a train. Another thing that I kind of gripe about is the range. 15.5 miles, if you're not helping it at all, if you're running full throttle, is not a lot of range, guys. Obviously, like I said earlier, you can get external battery packs to help increase your range. But if you're not going to have a removable battery, I'd much rather have longer range. I'd rather have this tube a little bit wider with a little bit bigger battery. That way it got a little bit more range. It's a minor gripe, but it's a solvable problem. Another minor gripe is when you have the handlebar fully extended, there is a little bit of flex to it. It's not a huge amount, but it's enough to where you notice it. I guess if you're a shorter rider and you have it halfway down or halfway extended up, you're not gonna have to worry about it as much, but I just notice it a little bit more. So it's a minor gripe. Like I said, it's just not a bike for taller people. Yet another minor gripe is when you turn this thing on, it reads in kilometers per hour. Now for you European people, you're probably fine with that. Here in America, we use miles per hour. I wish they had a toggle feature where you could turn it to miles per hour. I've looked online, I have not been able to find that anywhere. I mean, come on, if you're gonna sell the bike in different countries, at least have a function where you can switch it over to miles per hour. A really, really big gripe is the fact that the seat can come all the way out. You can pull this thing all the way out. I don't care about the pump function, guys. I don't want a pump in my seat post. It's a nice function to have, but I'd rather have it where the seat did not come out of the frame. When you're locking your bike up outside, somebody can just undo this latch and take your seat. That is just not acceptable. That means I gotta carry around a seat with me all day instead of just leaving the whole bike locked up outside the office. Hey guys, I'm gonna interject real quick. There is a workaround to that seat problem that I really wanted to show you guys real quick. All you really have to do is simply lower the seat all the way like so. You put the U-lock through the frame of the bicycle seat. So now you can lock your seat to the frame of your bicycle. That's simply just a quick workaround so you won't get your seat stolen. The only downside is you got to carry an extra U-lock. Another gripe is it's not necessarily the most stable bike to ride. As you guys know, it's very, very squirrely. Yeah, the steering, very, very touchy on this bicycle, guys. Very touchy. You got to pay attention on this bike. You have to pay attention because those tires are small. You hit a good sized chug hole and you're not holding onto the handlebars tight enough, you will fly off this bike, guys. There's no question about it. It can be dangerous. And along that note, the brakes. If you push the brake lever too much on the rear, you're gonna fishtail. I nearly drifted around that corner back there because I ran into an obstacle. Somebody was standing right in the middle of the bike path and I hit the rear brake and my back tire just like fishtailed. The front will flip you over the handlebars. So you really gotta kind of train your brain not to like jerk the brakes anytime an obstacle gets in your way. Otherwise, it can get kind of dangerous. So obviously the bike is not the most stable and obviously the braking is kind of sketch. But all in all, it's just one of those things you just have to get used to. Now we're gonna talk about the drivetrain. I told you guys I love the single speed drivetrain. I love the simplicity of it. But there's the thing I don't like about it. I don't like the fact that this gear is integrated with the cranks. That means if I want to change the front gear and make it bigger, I can't do that. I have to change the crank assemblies with it. A minor gripe because I'm not going to change the gear on this bike, but if I wanted to, I can do that. Another thing that's kind of a minor gripe is the 250 watt motor. I kind of wish this thing had a bigger battery, a removable battery, a bigger battery, and a bigger motor. Something like a 350 watter on a small bike like this would have been like, oh man, that would be so powerful. It's not the peppiest bike in the world. It doesn't take off the fastest. It's just not the peppiest folding bike there is. It does get up to speed fairly decently. I just wish it had a more powerful motor in the back. Minor gripe, not a huge deal. Now we're gonna get to the single most boneheaded thing that I do not like about this bicycle. I absolutely detest about this bicycle. I absolutely hate about this bicycle. And that is the fact that the rear motor does not have a quick disconnect.
What?
I told you guys before that the puncture protection on these tires is top notch. But guess what? You run over a roofing nail. There's no tire in the world besides a Tannis solid tire that's going to be able to take a roofing nail if you run over it. So if you run over a roofing nail, you're going to get a flat. Can you change this flat? Yeah, they're not that hard to change. The problem is they didn't leave a quick disconnect for the rear motor. Also, they don't have any kind of adjustment screws for the rear stays. This bike has horizontal dropouts. Why? Because it's a single speed. So when you loosen up these nuts, guys, you have to pull the tire back to get tension on your chain. Obviously, that's how you tension your chain. A lot of single speeds will come with forcing screws on either side. So instead of having to hold the wheel back and tighten the wheel nuts at the same time and keeping it even, you have adjustment screws on the back to where you can actually just adjust one side and adjust the other, and you can pull tension on it. It's like a tensioner that pulls tension on the chain, but you can do it evenly where the wheel doesn't get all crooked. Now the cool thing is that you can buy horizontal external dropout adjustment screws. So you can buy that as an aftermarket feature, not from this company, but from aftermarket companies out there on the market. But this part right here, the wire, you see the rat's nest of wiring right there, okay? Mainly if you want to change this rear wheel out, you got to take off the rear nuts, you got to take the chain off of there, you got to pull the tire out. Well, guess what? You only have from here to that first zip tie of length. So basically you got to cut that front zip tie, and you got to cut that second zip tie, and you got to cut some of that, and that'll give you enough wire length. That way you have enough room to be able to change the wheel or change the tube or change the tire while not having to disconnect this. Because if you have to disconnect this wire, you have to go into the control box and undo the connectors inside there. It is a process. Like I said, I'm not going to fault this bike too much for that, because at least these tires are really, really thick, and the chances of getting a puncture are not very often. But when you do, it's a pain in the butt to actually change a tire or change a tube on this bicycle. Why not just put a quick disconnect where you can just detach it right there? It would have made so much more sense. All in all, guys, it's a really cool bike. It does have its uses. I definitely use this bike from time to time. I just don't use it that much, but I do use it from time to time. Okay, guys, let's wrap up this video. It's already too long as it is. Okay, here's the question everybody's asking. Would I recommend this bike? Yes and no. And I know that's not an answer anybody wants to hear, but you guys have to understand, there are different bikes for different purposes. If you want this as a full long distance commuting bike, this is not your bike. If you want it as a quick little get me around town bike, you know, a little bike that you could store in your apartment, it doesn't take up much room, or you could bring it into the office, put it under your desk, it doesn't take up much room, this is your bike. So you got to be realistic about what your needs are. I know I'll keep one in my arsenal, but you know, you have to decide what your needs are, be realistic about your needs, and if what you need is something small and compact, and that's the most important thing, this might be your bike. Anyway, like I said, I do recommend it for those purposes. Anyway, guys, this video is already enormously long. I really appreciate you bearing with me through this whole process. I left a link to Fiido's website down in the description below if you want to check out their website, all their bikes, and this bike, in case you wanted to order one for yourself. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for sticking with me, and I will talk with you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.